Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crime on the Record. My name is Jason. She, of course, is Candace. I just want to welcome you to my show, my channel, my podcast. I am the host, the creator, the extraordinaire. She is just somebody that I happen to have
Oh
on
gosh.
every week. No, I only say that because we had somebody comment one time about how this was my show and the host was great, but the guest was iffy.
I don't even know if that's exactly how they said it, so let's calm down.
I feel like it was. That's the way I remember it anyway. That is the way
I
I
don't
remember.
recall. What I remember is them being like, "We liked your guest." I'm like, "But I'm not a guest. I'm like the other person."
Yeah. So now it's just kind of a running joke. But before we get started, are you excited? You only got a couple days left, buddy. Only
Oh
got a
yeah,
couple
I'm
days left.
super
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm super
So
excited.
while we're sitting here freezing our asses off, you'll be in sunny Mexico where it's 80 degrees and blue shimmering water.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
feel for you. I'll feel for you while I'm there.
Yeah. If you remember to feel for us while you're there.
Really, I'm gonna be spending most of my time just stressed out because I'm on a boat in open water and I can't see land.
It's not as bad as you think. You'll get used to it real quick. And I know you don't drink a lot, but if it gets to that point where you're just so nervous and scared about this, just drink and then you'll completely forget where you're at.
I gotta
You'll be
be
good
on
to go.
high alert at all times to knock people out of that boat so I can get one. Like, they're not
You-
Titanicing me. I'm getting back to land.
Like, do you have your personal flotation device ready so you can sleep with it on and your boat's going to be in a backpack that you carry everywhere? So now,
I do think I need that. And your dad had a good idea. I'll take more floaties.
Jesus Christ.
Just take these
It
more
is
floaties and they'll find me.
it is pretty cool though. Like a few weeks ago you were in Canada where it was freezing and now you're going to be in Mexico where it's obviously not freezing. So I'm excited for you. I think it'll be fun
You
for
know,
you
I'm
and
starting to
your mom.
realize how I have a head cold because I keep going to all these different climates.
That's a wives' tale. That's not how that works. You're just
Whatever.
you're a very sickly person.
I would like
Okay.
to say I'm immunocompromised. Sickly just makes me sound weak. Okay.
Hey, tomato, tomato. But anyway, people are done listening to this. We need to get into the case today and get serious because, we need to transition
Yeah.
into a different mindset when we are talking about these victims. So today we are talking about 21-year-old Fiona Yu. She was a um, college student she's at Arizona State University. She was working on getting her degree in accounting. She also had a part-time job at the Alumni Association's gift shop. And like I remember I took a few accounting classes and then I didn't take any more accounting classes. So I can't imagine how somebody is full-time getting a degree in accounting, but also working part-time. And I understand
Yeah.
people, there's a lot of people that have to work because they need, the income for college or whatever. But I couldn't do it. I don't think I could
I
do it.
remember when I worked in Texas at the school district. Thankfully, we had a downtime because I worked with a girl who was getting her CPA, and it was like watching her. The amount of work that she had was unreal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like my son. I don't know how he worked full time while getting a degree in aeronautical engineering. I don't
I
know how
don't
he
know
did
how
it
he
either.
got a degree in aeronautical engineering, much less a job. But okay,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
smarter than us, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
And he is working in his field now, which is cool. They're working on sending some things to the moon and other things. I don't know. It's sciencey stuff in space is what he's
Yeah,
working on. But it just shows a lot of dedication and intelligence because I don't think you can be like halfway
yeah,
intelligent and be able to do those things.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the way her life ended is horrific. On August 4th, 1997, she is seen around 4:30 riding her bike home from work. It is on East Lemon Street in South Terrace for those of you who want to look it up there in Arizona. Her roommate came by at like that afternoon around 5 or so and just assumed Fiona was upstairs, so she went out to run some errands. I mean, I'm sure it's a pretty normal thing to come back to your apartment or whatever and be like, hey, everything's good, what's going on, and then you go out and do your thing. She came home around 6 and that's when she went to check on Fiona. And when she walked into the apartment, she saw Fiona laying on the ground. There was blood on her. She was barely breathing. And I mean, it's bad enough to see that, but her shirt was off and her pants had been pulled down. So you
Hmm.
know immediately really what happened
Yeah.
prior to the sexual assault happened first, obviously. Um, but the autopsy showed, because unfortunately she did die on the way to the hospital, because she was barely conscious and barely breathing when her roommate found her, and she did die at the hospital later. And the autopsy showed that there had been sexual assault, and then also that she had died from strangulation. And I remember we were watching one of the shows that we watched, and they were talking about how when you put pressure on the neck, even if somebody doesn't go unconscious, or you know they can still die like days later from
Yeah.
complications from that. And I thought that was because we were watching a show about, they were filming a movie, and they talked about how, you know, before they knew all this stuff, that somebody was doing a scene where they were getting choked, and then, cut, everything was good, and then like 2 days later the person died,
That
which is
is
just wild.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
really is. It really is. So that's how she can go from barely being alive, getting to the hospital, and then dying after she gets to the hospital. It's just,
I can't imagine what had to go through that roommate's mind to have had to find her roommate like that too.
yeah, and I'm sure there was some guilt too, because she got home at 5, and then she went out to do some more things, and then came back and checked on her. So it's almost like, if she would have checked on her at 5, would that have changed anything? Probably not. But I'm sure they live with that guilt every single day.
Bless her heart. Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure they do. Yeah, because it was a two-story apartment, like condo
mhm,
or whatever, and
yeah,
so she was upstairs?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, so it's just that she didn't go upstairs, so she didn't see her
yeah,
till she got back. Okay.
yeah. And I may not
Because
have explained that very well. Yeah, but
no, and I don't think most of the reports do either. I just know, I was reading something on it and people were commenting and they were like, doesn't that sound fishy? And somebody's like, no, she was upstairs. Why don't you go? Like, if I come in and I'm just chilling at the house, I'm not going upstairs to check every room.
yeah, yeah. But I'm sure she wished she would have.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know if it would have made a difference, but I'm sure if you are there and you check on your roommate an hour after you first got home, there's always going to be that guilt there of could I have done more? Could I have could I have saved her? And
Yeah.
it's
It
sad.
sounds very like I don't like trigger warning for anybody, but my understanding of her injuries is that she was beaten so badly and strangled that I don't know she would have it would have made a difference. So I
Yeah.
hope they don't feel guilt. I mean, they shouldn't,
No, they shouldn't. But I mean, it's human
but
nature.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah. So in the apartment, there was no sign of forced entry, but the lock on the sliding glass door was broken. So it's been reported. But even with the sliding glass door, I don't know if have you ever grown up in a house that had a sliding glass door?
We had a sliding glass door in Texas.
Oh, we
You
did,
never
didn't
even
we?
yeah,
That's
when we
right.
lived on
We
post.
we lived together in a house that has sliding glass door.
Yeah.
So my question of did you have one when you were growing up still stands. But no,
No.
but a lot of them, if you put your fingers like up underneath the door, you can lift it up a little bit. And if you continue to push it up like that, you can actually get the door to come off the track, and you can open it up,
Oh my gosh.
which is why you see some doors that have like a pin in them. That way
Yeah.
they can't move the door, or there's a pole in the bottom of it. So even if it wasn't broken, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to get in to some of those sliding glass doors.
To be fair, you didn't really live in it much because you were in Iraq, but it seems like I do remember now you telling me something about putting a something in it or something before you left.
And I'm pretty sure I did. But
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, because I grew up with a house that had one. So I know these little tricks on how to, do a B&E, if you
We
will.
just had a door. Of course, if you were my stepbrother, you went in and out the window, but that's another story, so
Well, that's fair. Yeah. So the cops immediately look at her boyfriend, Mark, because I mean that's always where they look first:
yeah.
husbands, boyfriends, that sort of thing. He provided an alibi that he was in New York at the time of the murder, which they were able to corroborate this. And I mean that's a pretty good alibi. I'm in New York,
Yeah.
she's in Arizona, going to be there for it. Um, and then Mark told police that she had been hanging out with a guy at a local bar that he didn't know. Now, they couldn't find any guy that was hanging out with her at a bar or anything else. I'm just like, it's weird to me that he would say that. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
just reading into it the wrong way because it's almost like, I mean, she was hanging out with some dude at the bar, or was it, hey, there was a guy that she went to a bar with a little bit of time. It's just, I don't know. When I read those things, I'm always like, what exactly did they mean?
Yeah. It does sound weird. I just, you say things all the time that you don't realize anybody's gonna report to
Hmm.
somebody on. So, I mean, I guess it
Yeah,
could have been something as simple as, her telling him some joke or story and being like, "Oh yeah, this guy that been talking to at the bar told me that." But
yeah,
that just shows that if he's talking about her being at a bar with somebody he doesn't know or engaging with somebody he doesn't know, doesn't seem like there was a big level of trust or cheating issues or
yeah, yeah.
burn.
I mean, and it's hard because it's all in writing, so we're just reading this stuff, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really go into
Yeah.
the dynamic of what he was saying and how he was saying it, what their relationship was like, anything. The bottom line is, though, is Mark didn't do it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the moral of this little part of the story. Um, Now there was an apartment cleaner that somebody that goes in and cleans the apartments when people are moving in and out, and they said that there was an unknown black male about 6 foot tall around the apartments at the time of the attack. I don't I don't know. It seems like I don't know. It seems like one of those. There's always some black guy around. It's how it felt to
Yeah.
me. It's like, because it's like, okay, so you saw a 6 foot tall black dude. Like, what does that matter? You mean in apartments where
Yeah.
people don't own stuff and people are constantly moving in and out of things? That like it
Right.
just I mean, and maybe they were just trying to be helpful, but it just seems like there's always this there's
Yeah.
the black guy was there. It's just I don't know, it's just weird to me. Um,
Yeah, because it is always like, why you gotta be calling out the black guy? Like,
right,
he's
right.
just trying to go check his mail.
Yeah. Yeah. Because hang on a second, we'll find out that this black guy really doesn't it's not a thing.
Mhm.
So on September 15th, about a month after Fiona was murdered, there was another woman that was attacked. And the details were very similar to Fiona's attack. The victim said there was a tall black male that asked her for money before attacking her. And then, but she survived. And then a few days later, another woman reported being attacked by two men. One of them was a tall black guy, and they asked for money before attacking her. So it seems like there's a little bit of similarities, and police thought, hey, maybe these could be linked to Fiona's case. Police did find the individuals that were involved in the other two attacks. This is Both of them were high school students. Like
That's just
I cannot wrap my mind around a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old sexually assaulting women just one after another. I cannot get my mind
yeah.
around that.
And, I told you I had like, we were talking about what are the chances that this is the case you were, researching, and I
Yeah.
just listened to, something on this case. When I was listening to it, they were talking about that, I think it was the first victim after Fiona, that the guy beat her so badly that he wrapped his hand in, I believe, her shirt and beat her to the point his knuckles were bleeding inside of a
Jeez.
shirt. That's how bad he beat her.
Good Lord.
A high school student did this
Yeah.
to a stranger.
Yeah.
What is wrong with these kids?
Yeah. I mean, and this is back in 97 when kids weren't, as bad as they are today. Well, I
Right?
mean, obviously they're just as bad. It's just they do different things. But I mean, it's hard to believe that one high school student would do it. But how do you get to a point where you're like with your friend and you're like, hey, I don't know, what do you want to do? Maybe rape and rob some people? Like, how does that conversation start?
I could even get robbing because,
Yeah.
okay, you're both
Okay.
douchebags, you're little felons running the streets. All right, you decide you're going to get some money from somebody. But rape? Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
what is
I
wrong
mean,
with these people?
yeah, it is. I mean, I don't understand it at any age, but
No.
16 and 17, that's just wild to me. And of course, they were questioned about Fiona's attack, and they maintained their innocence. So basically, they're like, yeah, the other two we did, but this Fiona chick, no, that wasn't us. So they just maintained it. DNA would later prove that they were not involved. So it's kind of weird. You get the cleaner that says it's a tall black guy. You see these other two, women that are attacked. They have the same description, and then it turns out it wasn't the same person. It's just wild to think that like three women can be sexually assaulted in the span of a month or so, and
Yeah.
like that, it's sad how common it is. It really is.
It
Like you chicks, man, you got to do so much more than we do as
To
guys.
stay safe, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go out, I'm not even thinking about this stuff. I'm not worried about covering my drink or making sure somebody else doesn't bring me a drink. Not worried about that. I'm not worried about being outside alone at night. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. Meanwhile, you guys are constantly on guard.
You
I don't
know
know how you don't have PTSD from constantly being in a heightened state of awareness.
but you know the weirdest part or the most ironic part of that is that until the Me Too movement and people started talking about it, I don't think that most of us, I know I didn't, even really thought about it. It's just what you do. It's just as a chick, you just so you don't
Yeah.
really I've never thought about, wow, it's so unfair that men don't have to do this and we have to worry about men hurting us. But yeah, your whole life. I mean, like you don't go places by yourself. You don't leave
Mhm.
your drink unattended. You know,
And ladies, I'll say this every single time: stop leaving each other.
oh my
Like,
gosh, yeah.
stop like, it seems like so many of these cases started with, "Well, and then Kimber wanted to go off on her own, so we just let her." No, you keep Kimber around. Keep her
Yeah,
around. Like, stop
yeah,
it. Stop it. Stay with
yeah.
her. So these two fine members of society were charged with attempted murder, burglary, kidnapping, and sexual assault because that's what every 16 and 17-year-old should be doing. Um, but
Jeez.
after that, the case went cold quick because I mean, wasn't the boyfriend. There was DNA that they collected, but they couldn't match it to anybody. They thought they had this break with these other two attacks. Turns out it was just some other random scumbags out there doing these things. So it went cold for a long time. There was no leads, no nothing, not nothing until the summer of 2017 when police worked with Parabon Nano Labs. They used this they use DNA from the crime scene to use what's called predictive image technology, also known as snapshot DNA, because it's a whole lot easier to say. It so they take the DNA and they provide a profile or snapshot of what the suspect may look like. It doesn't necessarily have the height and weight, and age can be iffy too. But police have been able to close several cases with this
Yeah,
technology, including cases in Arizona. So the technology became available in 2014, and of course, it takes years to disseminate out to everybody. But so it's not one of those where it's a little piece of technology that we try and every now and then it works. No, there's cases that have been closed because of this, and it's been
yeah.
pretty accurate, pretty accurate.
I
So
have the picture too if you want me to show it.
yeah, I was going to put it up on the site.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had
Um,
it. All right.
yeah,
Cool.
no, I'll put the picture out there on the site because I know that we have half of our audience watches on YouTube, and we've got
Yeah.
other half that listens on a podcast. So I'll put
Okay.
everything out there on cotrpod.com so you can see the pictures of Fiona and then who the suspect is. But what they got from this snapshot profile is a Hispanic Latino male, possibly 35 to 45 years old as of 2017. Um, it seems young if you're going to say 35 because what 2017, 2007, 97, you're talking about a 15-year-old that did this. It seems a little young. So that might
Although
be
a
yeah,
16-year-old
right,
old was
right. Yeah.
a
Yeah, that
dog
is
to the
true. That
others.
is
So
true. But he has brown eyes, black hair. And like I said, we'll put the composite out there on cotrpod.com. But like, that's it. Like you got a Hispanic male, brown eyes, black hair. You're in Arizona. Like there there's a lot.
yeah,
There's a lot of Latinos in that area. So I mean, that's not much of a description to go off. So basically, you're just waiting for this guy to commit another crime and catch him and then link it to Fiona's case.
yeah,
I mean, how you can't just stop every Latino guy out there like, "Hey, we need your DNA real quick." That's not how
right.
it works. Um, that's it. Like that for this case, that's it. Like
That's just
there's
horrible.
nothing else. It's one of those cases that you do want to talk about and you want to, keep talking about it just on the off chance that somebody may be out there and knows more and says something.
Yeah,
But in this case, there's just not a lot. There's not a lot to go off because there's obviously there's no ID from the suspect from the composite sketch that they did. You can't really just match it to anybody like facial
yeah,
rec or anything like that. There's been no other leads that has come from the crime since what they thought was a breakthrough in 2017. Her case is obviously still open, still unsolved. One of the detectives that was working the case said that Fiona lived life as well as anyone could expect. She was a petite, mild mannered person who never looked for trouble, but trouble found her. She is, in every sense of the word, a true victim. And
Yeah.
Fiona's roommate came out and said that she believes that the person that did it knew Fiona, which I guess would kind of maybe go. It would make sense if there's no forced entry into the apartment,
Yeah.
but I
But
mean,
they
I
were
don't know.
college students, though. I mean,
Yeah,
especially then. I mean, how many college students didn't lock their doors?
yeah,
I mean, or might not have been locked.
yeah. Could have. I mean, it could have been open. The door could have been
Yeah.
open. Which, I mean, it's not to say that Fiona should have had it closed and locked, because I mean that's not how you live, especially as a college kid. I'm sure you got friends coming over in off campus. I mean, they made a point to say it was an off campus apartment complex. So basically, it's where students lived if they weren't on campus. So I mean,
Yeah.
you just have a bunch of college students around. And if this guy was in his 20s, he would just look like another college student in the apartment complex. So I mean,
Yeah.
she probably wasn't, looking for somebody to sexually assault and murder her. It's
Mm.
not what you're thinking about when you're at home.
I know when
But
I
if
had my first apartment, I was 19, 20, I think 20. And I mean, I remember leaving the door open. Like I had a door and then like a screenish door. And I
mm,
mean, I never even closed the door. Anybody could have walked in. I mean, my neighbor would walk in all the time.
yeah, I
So
mean, I mean, and now we live in a super safe city in a very safe neighborhood, and I'm not going to check the mail without locking the door behind me to make sure you're all right. Like
right. Just
it's just so
because.
crazy. Yeah, just because. I mean, we've slept with the garage door open at night, and then woke
Yeah.
up the next morning and be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I don't even remember leaving it open. But I go, I'm just gonna go to the store for a couple minutes. I'm locking the door, making sure it's locked and everything else, because I don't want to leave you
Mhm.
home like that.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
And me being terrified of being killed by a serial killer, I even lock the bedroom door when you're not there. Like I lock the front door, the bedroom door, and sometimes close and lock the bathroom door before I get in the shower because I'm like, I might not hear them come in. That's 3 points they got to get to before they get to me. Maybe I can get to a weapon first, you know?
Sure, sure.
Maybe that's just women think. I don't know. I wonder if we worry about that, even that
I'm
more than men. It
I'm
could. It's
very
probably me. It's
it,
probably
it
me.
is it is. I'm very curious. Um, if you guys have this irrational fear as one of like, I don't like heights. I'm not super excited about heights. So maybe falling off something and dying would be one of my fears, I guess. If you guys throw a comment out there, if you're listening on podcasts, like put something out in the review area, because I'm very curious. How many of you dying by a serial killer is like your number one fear? Because that's
And it doesn't
yours.
even have to be a serial killer, just a killer. I mean, I
just,
always go
just
serial killer, but any killer, you
No,
know?
no, no. I want to know specifically, not you're scared of getting murdered, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who may have that thought. I want to know, like, you're worried about a serial killer, like a
Yeah,
bona
because they're
fide,
deranged. I
legit,
mean,
yeah, bona
you don't
fide,
know.
legit, has a moniker in the news serial killer. Because that's my
Hmm.
wife. That's her number one fear. Nothing else. Serial killers.
I mean,
So I am
you
curious if you
know,
guys have that same irrational fear or not.
in all seriousness, though, it is because you read so many of these stories and go through them, and you just,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's being a therapist or just being empathetic as a person, but that empathy, it's like, I always think about the horrible fear they must have gone through and the pain they must have gone
Yeah.
through. And that terrifies me to think like, wow, that shit actually happens to people.
Yeah. I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, I'm just kind of make fun of you a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah, we're
about
just
that, but
joking, but
you're absolutely right. I mean, it's
oh,
not to make fun of anything that's ever happened to anybody, because it's
oh
horrific to
yeah,
think
yeah,
about. Like, I mean, you think about what the person went through, and then the families that are left behind. Like, it's bad enough that they lost a family member, and then they lost it to such a brutal ending. But then they have to think about that. So anytime they think about losing their loved one, I'm sure they think about how it happened.
yeah. Because for a lot of people, when they get the call of a family member passing away, almost everybody's instinctual first question is, did they suffer? How
Hmm.
did they die?
Yeah.
So that clearly plays a part. I mean, I know when I found out my dad had passed, it was like, okay, how did he? Because all I could think was, oh my God, was this a car wreck? Did he get hurt? Like what
Yeah.
happened? So that, I mean, that was my only consolation is that it was in a heart attack and he hit the floor.
Yeah.
Like there was no pain. So to know that they have to know what happened,
Yeah. And
that's
as a detective, I wouldn't want to tell them, but you can't lie. I
well, yeah,
mean,
because they're going to find out.
Yeah. So you just have to be as delicate as possible. I mean, like that's a tough thing to do. And
It's
I
gotta
mean,
be hard too when they wanna see the body and you're like, "Ooh,"
yeah, you don't
you
want to
know?
do that. Yeah, and if you ever saw a homicide detective that was, you know, kind of nonchalant about telling another family member that, they've been a victim of homicide, they should probably get out of homicide. Like that should always be a very
Yeah,
difficult thing to do. And once it's
yeah.
not, you might need to get out of that line of work. I don't know if there's anybody who ever actually ever gets to it doesn't bother them to tell a family and tell somebody
Uh,
in the family.
yeah, we do.
Well,
Do you
well,
not remember
okay.
that
That's
episode of 48 Hour or the first
the
48?
first 40. Yeah, yeah. Cause I mean,
This girl said, "Well, I don't know, he hasn't been returning my calls." He's like, "You know why he didn't return your call? Because he's deader than shit." And I almost hit the floor.
yeah. And
Almost hit the floor.
And I thought maybe he was trying to say that to get a reaction out of her, but turns out he didn't even suspect her of doing it.
He
So,
clearly didn't think she did
yeah.
anything.
So
Why
maybe
would
that
that
guy,
be?
maybe he needs some sensitivity training. I don't know, but
A
maybe he
new
clears a lot
job.
of cases. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't want.
maybe,
I
but
don't.
whew,
I don't want to talk shit about the dude, but it was a
yeah,
very
that's
uh,
true.
aggressive way of telling somebody that their
Yeah.
family member or a
I
friend
mean, it stayed
was
with me.
deceased.
We talk about it to this day, so
That's true. That is true. It
clearly it
was.
was
Yeah.
aggressive.
I could understand if it was a tactic,
Yeah.
but it didn't seem that way. It didn't seem that way.
It didn't appear to be.
But back on to Fiona's case, real quick.
Yes, yes.
Again, it is Hispanic male, possibly 35 to 45 years old in 2017. Brown hair, brown eyes, black hair. We'll put the composite sketch out there. And if you happen to know anything, uh, contact Tempe Police Department at 480-250-8311.
Yeah, so please go look at the picture because, you know, people travel, people move, and it may be that, you knew this guy's your neighbor in Wisconsin in
Hmm.
2008 or whatever, like you might recognize him. You don't know.
Yeah, and it's a good chance that some of these cases really doesn't necessarily come down to knowing or seeing a picture and be like, "Oh, I know that guy." But after this much time, people are talking about it. Have to be. So even
Hmm.
that could maybe help with this. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
it's the reason
mean,
we talk about this.
that Tara Grinstead case, like the the guy didn't that did the podcast, he didn't crack the case, so to speak. It was just that he put so much pressure on the people in that town that the people that killed her started talking, and then people came
Mhm.
forward and were like, "Whoa, we know what
Yeah.
happened all those years ago." So yeah,
Right.
cases get solved when people start talking again.
Yeah, whatever it takes to get these things solved. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
like you got to put pressure on people, or you can do something like simply sharing this video or other videos that you watch. Like share that stuff with everybody else, because I mean that's the whole point.
Yeah.
As many people watching and listening to these cases as possible, and not just our channel, but everybody's channel that are
Yeah.
doing these the right way. I guess I want to put that little
Yeah.
disclaimer out there. If they're doing it the right way, then we need to share these cases with as many people as possible. So
Yeah, when
that
you go
being
on
said.
Apple or anywhere, all you do, you put in the name, it'll bring up every episode from any creator that's ever done a podcast on it.
Yeah. And
So,
like before you take off, make sure that you subscribe to this channel or the podcast, whichever. It's free. It's not like it costs anything. I mean, so
yeah.
just subscribe, and then there may be cases that we cover that are important to you or that you just want to share. I mean, even if you don't watch all the videos or listen to podcasts, share them anyway. You never know
And
who's going to
hitting
hear
the
something.
like button, because doesn't that like make it come up more in algorithm? And
Yeah.
then the more
Yeah.
people that see it, the better chance you have of something
Yeah.
happening.
YouTube is very weird because even like liking a video, putting a comment out there, even hitting the dislike button on a video causes it shows that there's interaction between the content and the people that are watching it. So they just see any kind of engagement as engagement, and then it gets shared more.
So
Which
if you hate
so
us, hit
yeah,
dislike,
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah, that'll help us as well.
Yeah.
but um, but that's it for Fiona's case. Was there anything else that you saw that I didn't cover?
I mean, the only thing I did, and it's one of those things where you don't know how much you want to say because you don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I never want to falsely accuse, but I know there is a Reddit thread on it, and a lot of people talked about the maintenance guy that they were like, well, why did he say he saw this guy? Like, Was it that he saw a dark-skinned Hispanic person and took them for being African American? Was it he made it up? Was it a different person? So I know a lot of people have questioned that. And then I know the roommates, I don't know if it was her current or ex-boyfriend. A lot of people have said that he fits the description. I don't know that to be true. I don't know what the guy looks like, don't know who he is. But if you go on Reddit and look up her name, you'll see a lot of the discussion about it.
And I would like to say, when it comes to Reddit, Wikipedia, all that stuff, grain of salt. Like,
Yes, yes, absolutely. And
because
that's why I said I don't want to say
yeah,
names.
yeah, because some of the Reddit posts, like they say some wild stuff, but every now and then, some are right.
Every now
So
and then
you
there's a
just
gem
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, grain of salt for sure on Reddit. But
I
that is
mean, how did we find out about Koberger out there doing those dissertation interviews? I mean,
look,
people were
don't
on Reddit talking.
we don't need to get started on Coburn because
True, true.
he either didn't do it or he didn't do it alone. I mean, that's the only way. But that's a whole nother deal. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing that we're not going to talk about today.
But
But
we did find out about, him asking those questions of criminals because of, people talking about it on 4chan and Reddit. And I think he may have even put that thing out on Reddit requesting people to contact him. So
I
there
mean,
might be a gem out there.
it is an interesting survey though.
It is.
I mean, if you're using it for like a sociology, criminal justice, psychology, or whatever type paper, not if you're trying to plan some stuff.
They're all
Not
questions
so
I've had.
interesting. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean they are fair questions, and I
yeah,
mean they're they're fair questions that are interesting questions as long as you're not a murder suspect. But once you
yeah.
are, it looks completely different.
Mm,
So
mhm.
with that being said, guys, like I said, before you take off, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and let me know, do you have an irrational fear of being killed by a serial killer? Like a legit one, like a real one that has like a name out there in the news. You know, I'm really curious because I only know one person and I live with this psycho every day of my life.
That's so rude.
So, but anyway, guys, thanks for joining us this week. We will be back real soon with another one.
Bye.